Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. Once again, I'm Dr. Alicia Mondina. I work in both functional medicine and physical medicine, so I recognize a lot of familiar faces, so thanks for making it on out. So today I'm going to be talking to you about a very important piece that is oftentimes missed. It acts holistic, and in our programs, we have what's called the foundations, the lifestyle foundations. Now, oftentimes this piece is overlooked, and the reason for that being is because people don't want to go through all the steps, or it's more of a different basis. So I'm going to go through 5 big categories with you to take away today. So starting off strong, we're going to talk about diet. So when we talk about diet, we have to think when we're trying to heal our bodies, we need to take out. Oftentimes we think of putting in our bodies and we don't think of letting our bodies rest. So one big topic we have to talk about is inflammatory foods. Inflammatory foods can look like a couple big categories. The biggest one, and the one that we think is a trigger word in this office, is gluten. Now, gluten can be pretty damaging when our gut is not working the way it should be. The reason being is because it has the ability to go in with the protein gliadin and break up the intestinal walls. Now, Dr. Binner is going to hit really hard on topics talking about gut-brain axis, so we'll leave that all to him, but that is why I preface with saying gluten is a big culprit when we're talking about inflammation in the gut. The next one we have to consider is dairy. Now, I know that's a big one for some people. We love our cheese, we love our milk, we love all those things. But when we're looking to decrease inflammation in the body, we want to remove things like that, okay? Sugar, one of the most addicting, if not the most addicting and accessible drug that there is. Big culprit for inflammation, big culprit for just brain overall fog and slug. Now, we do always need a little component of glucose. So I always allow my patients to have a little sweet treat such as berries or something of that nature. We can't cut out all the fun. But when we're thinking of inflammation, we're thinking of healing our bodies. Our big goal is to remove. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to talk to you about is exercise. So I'm not asking you to go to your local crunch and start banging out the barbells, right? But we want to get the body moving. People have the hardest time with the exercise component because it's the biggest addition to your schedule. It's the biggest addition to getting yourself up and moving, and it's the hardest thing to motivate on. So I don't ever ask a lot, but we have to get our bodies moving. So something I always ask of my patients is when you wake up in the morning, preferably before the phone screen, you get up and try and catch natural sunlight. Number one, that's going to help with our next topic, and that's sleep. Number two, it's going to help regulate that gut motility. So we wake up, we get out, we get moving, a little bit of a walk, and we can really go a long way with that. It's going to speed up that digestive system. It's going to get our bodies ready for the day. So when we're thinking of exercise, what are some good things I like to do? Well, we're talking about removing stress. We're talking about taking out any stressors that could be in there. So I don't want you going to the HIIT gym and pumping out and going into the powerlifting realm. Movement in any form, like stretching, walking. I love Pilates, a good yoga class. Anything that's going to keep our bodies down and regulating is going to be super duper important. Now, if you already have an exercise regimen that you like, I never digress against that. I think that a lot of people utilize that as an outlet. A lot of people utilize that as their stress relief. So I don't ever remove. But when I'm thinking about stressors on the body, I have to think about a few topics. I have to consider what your physical stress looks like. I have to consider what your emotional stress looks like. And then we have chemical stress as well. So next big topic we'll talk about is stress. So something a lot of people are really into right now is the non-toxic homes. So we have to consider what we're putting on our bodies, what we're breathing in our households, how we're moving through, and what's in our cars, what's in our systems, things of that nature. So stressors look like a couple things. So we talked about chemical. Physically, are we pushing our bodies too much? Are we overworking at the gym? Are we overworking with our kids? Are we overworking at work? And are we resting properly? So we have to consider all of these factors. In a perfect world, there'd be a pill for your ill, but there's not. So we start with what Dr. Benner likes to call the low-hanging fruit, the free stuff, if you will. You start implementing the lifestyle changes. And now this is the big piece because it's forever, right? We always think about, if I do this for a little bit of time, I can get to my goals. Well, that's not how it works, right? And then something I consider too is when we start mimicking the goals and the behavior that we want, we should never reward it with what got us there in the first place. So that's a big takeaway. When we're talking about anything dietarily or stress or let's just say sleep wise, if we go to bed late, right? Why would we, when we feel like we're in a good place, why would we ever revert back, right? These patterns, these behaviors have put us in this box. When we decide to step away, why would we reward ourselves with that? Think like, oh, I want to treat, or I want something of that nature. You have to start replacing the treats. So we have to start going back and finding a swap. So that's the really big thing is when we're in the Axe Holistic Foundation stage, they may be the first stage, but it's a forever stage, right? You're stepping in, you're creating the new behaviors, you're creating the new swaps, and you can learn so much about this and so much about how you want to implement it in the future. Something I'm really, really big on when I'm working with a patient is educating them, but giving them the resources on how to educate. When I give a plan, I'm never saying, here's exactly what you need to do. I'm saying, here's the place to find it. This is what I need you to find. This is the topics I want you to be interested in. And that's what I give. When you start to invest your time and your energy into something, you are more likely to stick to it. So that's how I educate my patients. We spend a good amount of time in the office together. We spend an overlapping amount of time going through the steps, but then it is your homework and your job to go through and to implement them on your own to find what fits your schedule best. That's the amazing thing about the Axe Holistic program is it is fit to each patient. So when I'm going through foundations, this gentleman in the front may not want to go to a Pilates class. He may not want to go to the hot yoga class, but this lady right here may. So we have to find what works for his schedule. Health can be hard, but we have to switch over into the mindset that makes it easy for us, makes it individualized, makes it doable every day, because these lifestyles and these foundations need to carry out if we want to create that longevity and health. The last topic I really want to talk to you about is mindset. So when we're in this part of the program and with I would say 9 out of 10 of my patients, at the end of the visit, I always say, do you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that I said to you that you're uncomfortable with? And a lot of the times, 9 out of 10 times, I get, that's a lot to ask of somebody. That sounds hard. This is going to be really hard. My favorite thing to say to people is pick your hard. Do you want your hard to be, I have to wake up, I have to exercise, I have to better myself? Or do you want your hard to be disease and lack of sleep and inability to wake up and do the things you want? You can't get on the floor and play with your grandchildren. Those are the kind of things we have to consider when we're working on lifestyle and inflammation and getting this journey started. Is you pick your hards. You have to swap in. So when we're thinking about mindset, we want to really go in and we want to start swapping out our mindsets. I could say, this is hard, health is hard. Or I can say, this is setting me up for a beautiful process and life down the line. Dr. Benner's favorite thing to say is, I want you better at this age, 10 years down the line, than you are at this age. That's really important. When we start educating ourselves, when we start implementing the small swaps, then that makes us have a better setup for the future. So to recap, what I do and what I absolutely stand on with my patients: diet, anti-inflammatory, and that is a forever thing. That is doable. There are swaps. There are alternatives to anything that you could possibly want. When I was first told, your best option is to go gluten-free, because it wasn't too long ago I was sitting in a chair crying to a doctor because I had X, Y, and Z symptoms, or because I had migraines so bad I couldn't go out into the public or into the light. I sat in that chair and I was like, what do you mean I can't have gluten? What do you mean I can't have dairy? I can't have these things? And they said, here's where I want you to look, and this is where I want your research to go. That's where we start. The exercise, getting our bodies moving. It doesn't have to be harsh. It doesn't have to be a big lifestyle change, but it needs to be your body's moving, and we need it to move the way you want it to. Sleep. Sleep is super important. Sleep is where we're regenerating. It's where we're decreasing brain inflammation. It's where we're resetting the bodies. If we're not getting ample amounts of sleep and good quality sleep where you wake up and you feel refreshed, where your body wakes up and you may even need that bowel movement, right? That's when your body said, oh, I did my job over time at night. I decreased what I needed to. It's a good flush out. If we're not getting that, the other 4 pieces of the puzzle aren't going to fit in the mix. We need to regenerate. Diet, exercise, sleep, stress. The 3 versions of stress. When we can lower stress in all factors of our life, and we can only do what we can control. I mentioned kids and I mentioned schedules. We can only work with those so well. But when we decrease that, we can see a huge difference. Big thing that we see here at Axe Holistic and with autoimmunity is hormone imbalance. So when we're considering stress, I always like to explain it as a left side and a right side, right? We have our fight or flight and we have our rest and digest. When we're constantly in fight or flight, our rest and digest does not work the way it needs to. They obviously have to work in a beautiful balance to get to, daily habits. If someone's driving in your lane and you need to swerve out, you should be able to come back down from it. That's where we start, and we need to regulate our bodies. So the hormones is something we also have to consider when we're talking about inflammation. And to tie it in, the mindset. Pick your hard is my favorite thing to say, and I think that carries through every day. Do you want to wake up and do you want to exercise, or do you want to wake up and do you want to be groggy? Which one do you want to do? When you wake up, you exercise, you get your body moving, you have a good flow of everything. That's where we need to be. This is healing my body, this is helping my body, this is nurturing my body, versus I don't have the energy for this in my body and this is too much to ask and I can't stick with this. We have to pick our hearts because the goal at the end of the day is healing, and we're all on this journey together. It was great speaking for you guys today. I hope you have a really good understanding of the 5 legs of the foundation that we stand on. And if you have any questions following this, feel free to see me after all the speaking. Okay? Thank you.